Hello, and welcome to Communicate to Lead, the podcast that empowers leaders and aspiring leaders to communicate with clarity and impact. I'm Keely Belton, CEO and successful entrepreneur, and your host for today. I'm here to equip you with all the essential tools and strategies to master effective communication and lead your team to success. As the founder and CEO of The Tailored Approach, my goal is to empower you to be the best leader you can be. So sit back, relax, and join me in today's episode as we dive into the art of communicating like a true leader. Your mentor helped you navigate that difficult client situation beautifully. She gave you excellent advice on handling the tension with your cross-functional team, and her perspective helped you regain confidence after a challenging quarter. But then your organization announced a major restructuring. Department budgets were being reallocated, roles were shifting, and the political landscape was changing fast. You found out about the changes after almost everyone else. When leadership was deciding which initiatives to protect and which to cut, your project wasn't even part of the conversation. And when that high visibility task force was being formed, the kind of opportunity that could expand your influence and network, your name didn't even come up. Meanwhile, a colleague with less experience got tapped for it. Your mentor gave you great advice on managing uncertainty. But what you actually needed was someone in the room advocating to protect your work, someone making sure you had access to critical information early, and someone putting your name forward to strategic opportunities. You had advice. What you needed was advocacy, access, and protection. Welcome back to Communicate to Lead. I'm your host, Keely Belton, and today we are talking about something that came up repeatedly in my spring accelerator cohort. And if you're wondering what accelerator I'm talking about, I am referring to my Ignite Your Leadership Power Accelerator. And here's what happened. The women in my accelerator, they had incredible mentors, but no sponsors. And they didn't realize that's why they felt vulnerable, excluded, and stuck despite their capabilities. Here's what you can expect from today's conversation. First, I'm going to break down the critical difference between mentors and sponsors, in case you don't know, and why mentors alone can't give you the advocacy, access, and protection you need to build a sustainable, resilient career. Second, I'll show you exactly how to identify potential sponsors in your organization using 3 specific criteria that will help you focus your energy strategically. Third, you'll learn 5 authentic strategies for cultivating sponsor relationships that don't feel transactional or uncomfortable. And finally, I'll give you the exact conversation frameworks to use over the next 6 weeks to strengthen these strategic relationships. This is the single most important work you can do before 2026. And it's exactly what my new Accelerate cohort will be mastering together when we kick off on November 20th. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why sponsors aren't just about getting your next promotion. They are about building career resilience, expanding your influence, and having someone in your corner when it matters most. So let's get started. You probably already know what a mentor is, someone who gives you advice, helps you think through challenges, and supports your development. Mentors are wonderful for building skills and gaining perspective. But here's what mentors typically can't do. They can't advocate for you in rooms where decisions are made. They can't protect your interests when organizational changes happen. They can't give you early access to information that affects your work because they might not even have that information themselves. That's where sponsors come in. A sponsor actively advocates for when you are not in the room. They have influence in your organization and they use it to advance your interests. When budget cuts are being discussed, your sponsor says, "We can't lose her program. The ROI has been significant." When a high visibility project is being staffed, your sponsor is the one who says, "You need Mary on this." When organizational changes are happening, your sponsor gives you early warning so you can prepare strategically. Think about it this way. A mentor coaches you from the sidelines. A sponsor is on the field with you, using their position and power to make sure you get opportunities, protection, and visibility. Both are valuable, but sponsors provide strategic career support that mentors simply can't. Here's why this gap affects your career in ways you might not realize. Most critical career moments don't happen during formal processes. They happen in informal conversations between leaders who trust each other. So picture this. A VP is discussing next year's budget allocation with other senior leaders. Someone suggests cutting your initiative. Your sponsor immediately pushes back with, that program delivers a 20% improvement in efficiency. If we cut it, we lose those gains and damage our competitive position. Your work gets protected because someone with influence is in the room and is advocating for it. Or imagine this. Leadership is forming a task force to address a major organizational challenge. They are looking for people with strategic thinking and cross-functional experience. Your sponsor says you need to include Cindy. She has exactly the perspective we need, and she'll add real value to this conversation. You get access to a career-expanding opportunity you didn't even know existed. Or how about this? Your organization is restructuring and roles are shifting. Your sponsor calls you 2 weeks before the announcement and says, here's what's coming. Let me walk you through what this means for your work and how to position yourself strategically. This gives you time to prepare while others are caught off guard. That is what sponsors do. That's the power of them. And when you don't have sponsors, you are vulnerable in ways you might not even realize. Now, here's why women struggle with this more than men. We are often really good at building mentor relationships. We are comfortable asking for advice, seeking guidance, and being vulnerable about our development needs. But sponsorships, that feels different. It feels like we're asking for special treatment or favors. So what do? We end up waiting to be noticed rather than actively cultivating these strategic relationships. Men, on the other hand, seem far more comfortable with these advocacy relationships. They build connections through golf, drinks after work, and informal networking. It's not that they are more deserving, it's that they are better at cultivating relationships where people advocate for them. And here's the other challenge. We often don't realize we need sponsors until we are in a vulnerable position. We think our good work will speak for itself. But when organizational changes happen, budget discussions take place, or opportunities are distributed, good work alone doesn't protect you. You need someone in those conversations advocating for your interests. I saw this play out powerfully in my spring accelerator cohort when I asked the women to identify their sponsors. Almost everyone could name mentors immediately. But when I asked who would protect their interests during budget cuts, who would give them early access to strategic information, or who would advocate for them in leadership discussions, the room went quiet. These were accomplished leaders. They were incredible women with impressive track records, but they felt vulnerable because they didn't have sponsors. They were getting excellent advice, but no advocacy, access, or protection. That's when I knew we needed to spend serious time on this topic, and that's why in this upcoming cohort, we are working even more on that, because the women who take action and cultivate sponsor relationships, they don't only advance their careers, they build resilience, expand their influence, and feel more secure navigating organizational changes. And I'm telling you this right now because this is the last chance to get this support in 2025. Registration for our final cohort for 2025 is open this week only. We kick off on November 20th, and we'll be implementing this exact work, having these year-end conversations together before the 2026 plans are set in stone. I'll tell you more about how you can join us at the end of this episode. Now that you understand what a sponsor is and why you need one, let's talk about how to identify potential sponsors in your organization, because you can't cultivate these relationships if you don't know who to focus on. There are 3 specific criteria that someone needs to meet in order to be a good sponsor for you. And I want to emphasize this. It's not about finding any senior leader who likes you. It's about strategic identification. Here's the first criteria. They have influence in decision making. This isn't about having a senior title. It's about having actual voice in decisions that affect resources, opportunities, and organizational direction. Your potential sponsor needs to be someone whose opinion carries weight in leadership discussions. These are people who sit in budget meetings, strategic planning sessions, and leadership conversations where opportunities are allocated and risks are assessed. They're usually 2 or more levels above you in the organization. Here's how you identify them. Look at who gets consulted when important decisions are made. Who do other leaders defer to? Whose recommendations get acted on? Whose concerns get addressed? That, my friend, is influence. Here's the second criteria. They know your work and impact. A potential sponsor needs to have seen you in action. They've been in meetings with you. They've witnessed your problem solving. They've seen your strategic thinking in practice. They understand your capabilities because they've experienced them or heard about them from credible sources. This is why visibility is important and why it matters. You can't be sponsored by people who don't know what you're capable of. They need enough exposure to your work to credibly advocate for you when your name comes up. That's criteria 2. Here's criteria 3. They have a stake in your success. This is crucial but often overlooked. The best sponsors are people who benefit when you succeed. Maybe you work in their area of influence and your success strengthens their division. Maybe your specific skills complement gaps in their organization. Maybe they care deeply about developing talent and your success reflects well on their leadership. When they advocate for you and you deliver results, they look like excellent talent spotters. When they protect your work and it pays off, their judgment is validated. That's the mutual benefit that sustains sponsorship relationships. Now, let's talk about red flags. Who won't be a good sponsor? Avoid people who are struggling for credibility themselves. They don't have the influence to advocate effectively. Avoid leaders who have a track record of not supporting others. I know you know those people. If they don't advocate for people on their own teams, they certainly will not advocate for you. Avoid anyone who competes directly with you for resources or opportunities. That's a conflict of interest. And avoid people who don't actually have decision-making influence. Someone might be senior in title, but sidelined in practice. Here's a practical exercise you can do this week. Step 1, map your organization's power structure. Who influences budget decisions? Who gets asked for input on strategic initiatives? Who has the ear of senior executives? Write these names down. That's your step 1. Step 2, assess your current visibility with these people. Do they know your name and what you do? Have they seen you demonstrate strategic value? Do they understand what you bring to the organization? That's step 2. Here's step 3. Identify your gaps. Where do you need more visibility? Which relationships need strengthening? Who might naturally become a sponsor with the right cultivation? By the end of this exercise, you should have 2 to 3 names of people who meet all 3 criteria. They have influence, they know your work, and they have a stake in your success. If you are drawing a blank, that should tell you something important. You need to start building visibility with influential leaders. And that's okay. Now you know what you need to work on. But I know usually there's probably someone in your organization who could become a sponsor with the right approach. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Now we get to the part that makes many women uncomfortable. I know it makes me uncomfortable, but I had to learn the hard way. If I wanted to succeed in my career, I had to be willing to step into discomfort and do the hard things. And I know that you can do them too. So what is it that we need to do? Well, how do you actually cultivate sponsorship relationships? You have to be clear on how do you move from being someone they vaguely know to someone they actively advocate for. Here's the foundational truth. Sponsors don't advocate for you out of charity. They do it because you add value to their goals and make them look good. Your job is to become someone they want to champion. This isn't manipulation at all. It is strategic relationship building. And let me show you how we do this. Strategy 1, create strategic visibility. Because not all visibility is created equal. You need to be visible for the right reasons. strategic thinking, problem solving, and business impact that aligns with what your potential sponsor cares about. Here's what strategic visibility looks like. You volunteer for initiatives your potential sponsor is invested in. You solve problems that matter to their priorities. You demonstrate business acumen that supports their goals. For example, instead of saying, I completed the process improvement project, you want to say, the process improvement I led is now freeing up to 15 hours per week that we are redirecting to the customer experience initiative you championed in the leadership meeting. See the difference? You're showing you understand their priorities, you think strategically about organizational impact, and you are contributing to their goals. Strategy 2, make it easy for them to advocate. When a sponsor wants to advocate for you, they need concrete examples they can share. Your job is to give them that ammunition. Document your strategic contributions and outcomes. Quantify your impact in business terms they can easily repeat. Create a clear narrative about your capabilities that they can use on your behalf. Here's what this can look like. After you complete a significant project, send a brief update to your potential sponsor. And you could say something like, thought you'd want to know the cross-functional initiative I led resulted in 3 departments adopting the new framework. We are seeing early indicators of improved collaboration. You are not bragging by sharing this with your sponsor. You are providing information that makes it easy for them to say, she's someone who's driving results across the organization. Strategy 3, ask for strategic advocacy, not just general advice. This is where many women get stuck. We are comfortable asking mentors for career advice, but with potential sponsors, you need to ask for something different, and that is strategic advocacy and access. Here's the difference. Your request to a mentor could be, what advice do you have for advancing my career? Your request to a sponsor needs to be, I'm interested in expanding my cross-functional experience, particularly in areas that align with the strategic priorities you mentioned. I'd value being considered for initiatives where that perspective would be useful. Or, I know organizational changes are on the horizon. I'd appreciate being part of conversations where strategic decisions are being discussed, so I can contribute effectively. Notice how these requests are specific and give them clear ways to advocate for you. That was strategy 3, and here's your strategy 4. Deliver exceptional results that reflect well on them. When sponsors advocate for you, they are putting their judgment on the line. When you succeed, they look smart for supporting you. When you struggle, it reflects on them. So really think well and good what it is that you want to contribute. Because this means once you have a sponsor's attention, exceed expectations on visible assignments, handle challenges with professionalism, make strategic decisions that show good judgment, and build a reputation for being someone who makes their advocates look good. Strategy 5, express your career goals and needs clearly. Sponsors can't advocate for you if they don't know what you need. Are you looking to expand your influence across departments? Do you need earlier access to strategic information? Are you interested in specific types of opportunities? You might say, I'm focused on developing my strategic planning capabilities and expanding my organizational influence. I would welcome opportunities to contribute to initiatives that require cross-functional collaboration and strategic thinking. This isn't being presumptuous. It's helping them understand how to support your growth and where you can add value. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This feels calculating. Here's what you need to understand. This is about building mutually beneficial relationships. Sponsors benefit from having capable people in their network. They look good when people they champion succeed. Your contributions help them achieve their own goals. The women in my previous cohort who initially resisted, when this was reframed as strategic relationship building, not self-promotion, it dawned on them, and that's when breakthrough results happens, not just in advancement, but in feeling more secure, informed, and influential in their organizations. This week, identify one specific way to create strategic visibility with each potential sponsor. Maybe you volunteer for an initiative they care about. Perhaps you share an insight related to their priorities, or you request a conversation about strategic direction in your area. Pick one action and take it this week. That's how you start building relationships that provide advocacy, access, and protection throughout your career. We are heading into the final weeks of 2025. And here's what you need to understand. The strategic conversations happening right now will shape what 2026 looks like for you. Budget allocations are being finalized, as you know. Strategic initiatives for next year are being planned. Leadership is thinking about who they need in which roles and on which projects. If you don't have sponsors advocating for your interests in these conversations, you are being left out of critical decisions that affect your career. This is why the next 6 weeks matters. It's really crucial. And here are the 3 conversations you need to have before December 31st. Conversation 1 is with your manager if they are not your sponsor. If they are your sponsor, it's a different conversation that you're having with them. And that would be conversation 2. But let's go back to conversation 1 that you have with your manager if they are not your sponsor. Here's what you need to say. As we head into 2026, I want to ensure I'm positioned to contribute strategically. Who else in leadership should I be building relationships with? Are there cross-functional initiatives or strategic conversations where my involvement would add value? Notice what you're doing. You're asking for help identifying sponsors without calling them sponsors. You're signaling strategic thinking while asking for guidance. Listen carefully to your manager's response. Are they giving you specific names, offering to make introductions, or are they being vague? If they give you names, follow up immediately. That's helpful. Would you be willing to introduce me? Make it as easy as possible for them to help you. That's conversation 1. Here's conversation 2 that you need to have with potential sponsors. This conversation might feel a little uncomfortable, but it's important. You need to do this. So here's what you say when you are speaking to a potential sponsor. I've appreciated, and then mention a specific interaction or project that you worked on together. As I think about contributing more strategically in 2026, I'm interested in mention a specific area or areas that align with their priorities. I'd value your perspective on how to position myself to add value in those areas. Let me break down why this works. You start with specific appreciation. This shows genuine connection, not just random outreach. You mentioned 2026 and strategic contribution. This creates urgency and shows forward thinking. You ask for their perspective. This positions them as someone whose opinion matters. And you are specific about areas of interest. This makes it easy for them to think of ways to involve you. In this conversation with potential sponsors, they are likely to give you advice or suggest connections. Listen carefully, take notes, and thank them genuinely. But here's the subtle shift. By having this conversation, you have signaled that you want to contribute strategically. You've made yourself someone they think of when opportunities arise. You've given them permission to advocate for you simply by having this conversation. So ask yourself, in your entire career, have you had this conversation before? And if you have not, now is the opportunity to try something different. That is your second conversation. Here's your third conversation with your mentor, because you don't want to forget about your mentors in this process. And here's what you need to ask. I'm working on expanding my relationships with senior leaders who could help me contribute more strategically. Based on what you know about my work, who do you think I should be connecting with? Mentors often have insights into organizational dynamics, and they can identify potential sponsors you might have overlooked. They can also make warm introductions. Here's your follow-up strategy. After each conversation, each one of these 3 conversations, send a brief email thanking them and summarizing key points. This shows professionalism and creates a record of their guidance. Then, crucially, act on their suggestions immediately. If they suggested connecting with someone, reach out within a week. If they recommended getting involved in an initiative or a project, express interest immediately. And within 30 days, update them on your outcomes. Tell them what has been happening, what have you done, so that they know that you have taken action and that you are grateful for them leading you towards these opportunities. This follow-through transforms a single conversation into an ongoing relationship. Schedule these 3 conversations before December 20th. This gives you time to act on the guidance before year end and positions you strategically for 2026. Now, you and I both know it's November. You are busy wrapping up the year, dealing with holidays, and probably already feeling slightly overwhelmed. And I just gave you the gold standard 3 conversation plan: the conversation with your manager, conversation with potential sponsors, and the conversation you have with your mentors. And often this is your complete roadmap. But if for some reason you feel that you are at total capacity and you cannot manage these 3 conversations, and maybe you just need the 1-degree shift that will make the biggest difference, here's what I want you to do. Because I don't want you to not do something. Instead of working on multiple conversations, here is what you can do by December 31st. Action 1, identify your 2 potential sponsors. Before the end of this week, do the mapping exercise we discussed in this episode. If you don't remember, go back to that part of the episode and listen to it again and do the mapping exercise. Look at who has influenced your organization, assess your visibility plan with them, and identify 2 people who could potentially become sponsors. That's it. Just identify them. Write their names down. You are not reaching out yet. You are getting clarity on who you should be cultivating relationships with in 2026. That's your first action step. Here's your second action step. Have 1 strategic conversation before December 20th, before you close down for the Christmas holidays. Pick one of the 3 conversations we discussed with your manager, a potential sponsor, or with your mentor. Schedule it before December 20th and use the framework I shared. Just 1 conversation, not 3, not 5 networking coffees. 1 meaningful conversation where you signal your interest in contributing strategically in 2026 and ask for guidance. This single conversation can change your trajectory because it puts you on someone's radar before year-end planning is finalized. That's your second action step. Here's the final action step. Create 1 moment of strategic visibility. Between now and year-end, find 1 opportunity to demonstrate your strategic value to a potential sponsor. This could be sharing a brief insight related to their priorities via email, volunteering for 1 strategic initiative, or offering to present your year-end results in a way that showcases organizational impact. Just 1 moment where you show up as someone who thinks strategically, not simply being someone who executes tactically. That's it. 3 action steps, all achievable in the next 6 weeks, even during the busiest time of year. The goal isn't to transform your entire network before January 1st. The goal is to plant strategic seeds that you'll cultivate in 2026. By identifying potential sponsors now, having 1 key conversation, and creating 1 visibility moment, you are setting yourself up to build these relationships when the new year starts. And here's the thing. Most people do nothing strategic during the final weeks of the year. They are simply trying to survive. By taking these 3 focus actions, you'll already be ahead of the game when January arrives. This fundamentally changes your career resilience. Instead of hoping and wishing your good work will be recognized, you have strategic advocates who protect your interests, give you access to important information, and open doors to opportunities. So, before I let you go, let me ask you a direct question. If your organization announced a major restructuring tomorrow, is there someone with influence who would make sure you are part of strategic conversations? Someone who would protect your work during budget discussions? Someone who would give you early access to critical information? If you can't confidently answer yes, that's exactly why you might be feeling vulnerable despite your capabilities. You have mentors who give you advice, but you don't have sponsors giving you advocacy, access, and protection. The thing is, this isn't about promotions or politics. It's about building sustainable career resilience. It's about having someone in your corner when organizational changes happen, when strategic decisions are being made, and when opportunities are being allocated. And here's the good news. This is completely fixable. This kind of strategic relationship building is exactly what we master in the Ignite Your Leadership Power Accelerator. In our 12-week program, we don't just talk about identifying sponsors. We map out your specific organization, identify your sponsors, craft your position strategy, and practice the exact conversations you need to have. And here is the crucial timing. The doors to this cohort close and we kick off the program on November 20th. This is not an accident. This means you will not be trying to have these critical year-end conversations alone, hoping you get it right. You will be doing this work with me and a cohort of supportive women leaders in real time, during the exact 6-week window when it matters most. We will be building your strategic plan for 2026 together before 2026 even begins. The women in my cohort came in feeling vulnerable despite their capabilities. They left with the advocacy relationships that gave them protection, access, and opportunities. This is the last chance to do this in 2025. If you are tired of feeling vulnerable and you are ready to build strategic relationships that provide real career growth before 2026 planning is finalized, this is your moment, my friend. You have 7 days to join us. Click the link at the top of the show notes to schedule a call with me. Let's talk to see if the program will be a fit for you. As I said, the accelerator starts on November 20th. One more thing. If you haven't listened to episode 112 called Why Hard Work Isn't Getting You Promoted, go back and listen to it. It gives you the complete framework for career advancement. And today's sponsor discussion is one critical piece of that larger puzzle. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know it's a busy time of the year. You could probably spend this time doing something else. So I'm grateful that you are here, that you are focused on your growth. I hope this conversation has opened your eyes to why sponsors matter beyond just promotions. You don't need more skills or harder work. You need strategic advocates who will protect your interests, open doors, and give you access to the information and opportunities that build resilient, influential careers. The next 6 weeks will set the foundation for what 2026 looks like. Stop waiting to be noticed and start strategically cultivating the sponsors who can change your career trajectory. Until next Thursday, my friend, I am Keely, reminding you that great communication is the foundation of inspiring leadership. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember to communicate to lead.